So since we are short on time, 7 minutes is not a lot, I will go.
There's the
I will,
7-minute
I
timer.
will forgo just telling you about myself and instead focus on what I would like to share with you tonight. So Lambdas. I grew up in Germany, got all my education over there, and during time in university, I remember Lambda meant something complicated. I spent sometimes weekends like trying to figure out what the professors meant with just like huge formulas and stuff. Then, many years later, I saw a Lambda again when I learned Python. And in Python, it helped me to write much more beautiful code. So Lambdas now meant something beautiful to me. Then I saw Lambdas in Java. In Java, the Lambdas were something, let's say, syntactically not so beautiful. But today I want to talk about a new meaning for Lambda, and that to me means something relaxing. With AWS Lambdas, I don't have to think about scalability anymore. I don't have to think about restacking servers anymore. It's all happening managed for me. And so for many of us, we think, well, Java is not a first-class citizen in the AWS Lambda world. You have heard about things like, oh, the startup time is so slow and Python is so much better in that environment. But I think that's not true. So I want to share with you 4 different projects. They're all on GitHub, if you see the URL down there. All in one repo, 4 projects. One is your startup, just a pure implementation of a Java Lambda function. And we'll go into this real quick. It's just answering the question if a number is a prime number. Then the second version gets a little bit more complicated, but nicer, because now we take care of serializing and deserializing the JSON. JSON is important because this is how Lambda functions communicate. The third version exposes your Lambda functions to the world, to the API Gateway. And the fourth version is doing what's called continuous integration and deployment, where you have your code in GitHub, you make a change, and from that point on, everything happens automatically. So you don't own the build environment anymore. No more laptop builds. You check in your code, all the tests run in AWS. The deployment happens in AWS. And let me show you how this works. So we get out of this light thing, and I hope you know Postman. So here we run just a post, and we send in a question, and we get in a response. So we send in 113, and the response is, yes, 113 is a prime number, divisible only by itself and by 1. Now let's say I forgot to put something in here. For instance, you could put, let's say, a timestamp into it. And usually I would now open IntelliJ and make a change, but we have little time. So where is my other browser here? Oh, it's here. So what we want to do now is we want to do something that is really ugly. We go in here and make the code change in GitHub directly. Okay, so it's a little risky. I can say just private final string. Guys, help me out if I make a mistake. This is pair program. So we call it timestamp. I say this is equal new date dot to string. So what do you guys think? Will this compile? Will this work?
Should.
Yes? All right, okay. Then what I now do is I will just commit the change. All right. So now you go to a different page here. And this is, it just happens, see? It's called AWS Code Pipeline. They already picked up the change that I did on GitHub. I just make this one change, one small change. So if you configure all that stuff, they build a webhook into your GitHub repo. It notices when there is a change. And then it will start compiling it. We'll start building it. It will running all the tests. We'll create a deployable. And while this is going on, now we're already in the build stage here. I will go quickly back to slides here. And we will go very quickly through this stuff. So number one, if you check out project number one, and all these have the same code basically, just 3 classes. One is finding out if a number is a prime number, very simple static code. The second class is the request, the thing that you receive, containing the number and that you want to test. The third one is a response. And what you have to realize is that communication with Lambda functions, like I said earlier, happens through JSON. So somebody has to serialize and deserialize this. If you do it like I do it here, straightforward with this first approach, you have to make sure that your code is serializable. And that means you have to deal with the kind of ugly serializer that's built into AWS Lambda. That's old Jackson, which means you have to put lots and lots of annotations in your code. Oh my God. So version number 2 just says, I will take care of serialization. I'm using JSON, and that makes code much nicer. Away are all these annotations. Version 3 uses another, and if you look, what the only change we do is the same code, we just implement a different request handler. That's where these 4 versions differentiate, really. The next version receives a proxy event and responds with the proxy event. And that's what we have to do to communicate with the API Gateway. But if you look here, it's very simple. We just create a string body and use JSON to serialize it and deserialize it. So not much more difficult. And now suddenly you have all your stuff working in AWS.
Would you like another minute?
I want another minute, please. I buy another minute.
Audience, does he get another minute?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So then I will go into IntelliJ really quick. I spend a lot of time to make this really nice by integrating. So it's all built on Gradle, of course. And why is this not here?
And just drag it
Oh,
out.
that's his.
Drag this away? No. Go away.
Okay.
So the Gradle test, if you look at that, there's a Gradle test for deploying it. So if you click that, it will deploy your code into AWS. So you never have to leave IntelliJ when you work. You have to imagine this. You deploy your code, and there's also a test, where is it coming? For invoking it. See, for instance, here, if you look at this, I have a JSON payload, number 15, that's what I'm sending in. Now I'm invoking it here out of IntelliJ. This is now making the call into AWS, into the Lambda function. And down there you see the response. You get logs in IntelliJ here, in the command out. But now we go back. I don't want to take too much time, really. We go back into the browser.
30 seconds.
Look at that. We are currently deploying it. So that's the last stage. So while I was talking through the slides, this thing picked up the stuff from GitHub, compiled it, ran through all my test cases. And you can also have rules. If the test coverage is not at 80% or whatever you want to set, it will not accept it. So now we have it deployed, and now we just run it again. In Postman, run our post again, send the same. And there's the timestamp.